Hello, welcome. Today we're working with embossing, acrylic embossing plates and 3D printed cutters that I got on AliExpress. And I'm going to be sharing my tips and tricks to have this work out well. So one of the things you want to get is a mat to work on. If you're rolling on or cutting on your work surface and your fondant is sticky, they'll stick to the surface, and then when you want to lift them off, they get all wonky. So this way you can kind of lift off the mat and it's just a lot easier to work. And then a small rolling pin. These are super affordable. So there, and I'm working in white fondant. You can buy colored fondant. I do not recommend that you color your fondant simply because it makes it excessively sticky. And so if your fondant is sticky, then it will get stuck in the crevices of the design and it will be a major pain in the butt. Another thing that you will probably need is a puffy brush. Now this is, my fondant is brand new, and fresh fondant can be on the sticky side, so I'm just dusting it slightly with the cornstarch, and now I've got my little ball of fondant and I'm just pressing it into the mold here, and I'm going to roll that. I for sure have too much. I'm just going to go a little bit this way. And if you want, you can see on the other side how much you're outside of the perimeter, because the cookie is slightly out of the perimeter. And there I'm just rolling. And the guides are good because then your fondant piece is all the same thickness. All right, so there it's rolled out. And you can see it's relatively stuck to the surface there. So you want to have your little lip to grab onto, and I can see, look at how stuck it is to the thing. So I'm going to need more corn flour. Okay, so I'm going to lift this off. This was take one, and we're just going to use the fondant to remove the excess bits on the mold. And I'm going to do it again. Here I've got my piece of fondant. It's about the right size. So I'm just going to transfer it. I've brushed on some cornstarch here. And now I'm positioning that onto my plaque. And I've got my rolling guides. And the guides are important so that you don't roll too thin. And from the center, go down and up. So start in the middle and then press up, press down. And then you can kind of get the whole thing so that it's all the same thickness. All right. Now you do not cut it now because you need this kind of lip here to lift it off. So we're going to grab this, and then I can see here there's no impression right there. So we're going to do it again. I'm going to ball it up. Let's move this into frame. A little bit of cornstarch for the surface of this. So cornstarch, position it dead center, and we're going to push up and down. So now what happened is the back stuck to the rolling pin and pulled it out. So I was getting a good impression, but the actual rolling pin got stuck to the fondant and pulled it out. So I guess I'm going to put cornstarch on both sides. And now again with the cornstarch, both sides, okay, so that it doesn't stick to the rolling pin. So it shouldn't stick to this, but it shouldn't stick to the rolling pin either. So I'm in the middle, pressing down, go back to the middle, and now press up, and then you can go the whole way, okay? Now don't cut now. We need a lip to grab so that we can pull it out of the mold. So I'm just gently, and you can see there, that's a good impression there. And aligning with the cutter. Okay, and so when you cut, well, you can get this to stick to your work surface, and that's why it's nice to be working on a thing like this silicone, so that you can easily lift it off and move it to wherever you want to move it. If you roll this or cut this on work surface, well, if it's stuck, you're going to have to go with your nail, and you're going to damage it. Already it's pretty fragile. So this is the second version of the skulls. I have 3 I bought, and I'm just somewhat flattening it initially so that it's not a big clump. It's easier to kind of roll it into the acrylic plate when it's a bit flatter, like so. All right, and I'm just dusting it with cornstarch on both sides so that it doesn't stick to this and to the rolling pin, because if it sticks to the rolling pin, it tends to pull it out of the mold here. So I'm starting in the center, rolling down and then up, and I found that it's giving me a better impression when I do that. Okay, now I'm not cutting yet. I'm pulling it out before I cut, so that I have something to grab to pull it out of there. So let's flip it over and we can see. And now I'm just pulling it out, and I can see it's quite stuck to the plastic, and that tends to cause it to get stretched. Not necessarily really warped, but it makes it longer than it needs to be. Oh, it looks like it's okay. All right, now I'm using the same cutter that I used to cut the cookies to cut this, and I'm working on a silicone so that it doesn't stick to my work surface. And you can just do a little circular motion just to get a cleaner cut. The 3D cutters, you can see here there's a little lip. The 3D cutters don't cut like a steel cutter, like a really sharp line. They more squish. And so you're often left with little remnants of fondant at the edge there. So I'm just moving that to this. My final, this is the smallest of the versions. There it is. It's quite pretty. I think you could maybe use just a portion of it here if you wanted to kind of trim it off with a small cutter. And some cornstarch on both sides. This is the first time I'm using this mold, so I'm just going to also dust the mold. Let's tap out the excess. I'm going to rest this right here. And then starting in the center, pressing down, and then this towards me and then away. Okay, and you want to make sure that it's all the same thickness. And I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to pull it from that little lip that was left over. And it's not a good impression. You can see over here, it's not nice. I want to do it again. Cornstarch again. Okay, there. And in the center and down, one of the hairs off of my brush, and up. We want the same thickness for the whole area. I'm doing all the way, leave the lip so that you can grab it. There, all right, perfection. Got it on the mat, make my life easier for the cutting. And now I'm much better than the last impression. I had gone 2 up. There it is. And there. Very nice. Now I'm going to be painting in airbrush, and so I'm transferring them onto a paper towel so that when my airbrush goes on, that I don't get it all over my work surface. And now I'm coming in with yellow at the top of the head here. I'm adding just there, and then I'm going to do the center of the eyes around. just that little flower in yellow. So you can get pretty precise with the airbrush, you can see here. And the other thing that's great is I'm not touching the surface and damaging the pretty impression. I'm only, like, it's air, so I'm never going to kind of hit one of these lines or whatever. I'm just painting. A few details in pink, so the middle of the eyes in pink. Oh, he's got diamonds in his eyes, so let's do that. And he's got these little berries in his hat. Okay. Here they are airbrushed, and if you want, you can come in with a marker on some of the areas, but this is still fresh fondant, and it really doesn't take much to create a dent in the surface. So I'm just barely touching to get this mustache on. Now this type of thing, like painting each line, takes a very long time and you know, really eats into your productivity, making this a fast option. If you come in and paint, well, paint is usually quite liquid and it can get away from you, and drips can get into the cracks, and then your color spreads. I like the airbrushing because it essentially keeps the surface dry as you're painting, and it doesn't make it excessively sticky, so that when you have to handle it to stick it onto your cookie, it's not sopping wet from being painted. Fondant is a tricky thing to paint. As soon as you add moisture to it, it gets quite wet. All right, I'm going to do a little experiment. Here is a acetate bag. You can see it's like stiff plastic, and in my airbrush I've got Stamp Color by AmeriColor, and I'm just coating my bag here, and you can see I've got a dusting of this black on the surface, and I'm going to try and see if I can just color the raised lines. So here's my pretty airbrush design, and this is the bag with the stamped black on it, and I'm just trying to essentially cover the top lines. You can see here, because I don't want to get it inside the crevices of where I got the airbrush. You see what's happening here? And it's not that wet. So I did get some on the outside. I got some right here, which I didn't want, but it's an experiment. Because if I come in with my marker, it is so long and tedious. So here's a makeup sponge. Oh, I think I found it. There it is. All right, let's try that again. And so now I'm going to show you how I got just the lines painted, because this takes too long. It's not efficient. We need to crank these cookies out. Here is my airbrushed thing, and now I want to get those lines black. Okay, I've got my airbrush and I've got my color in there, black, and I'm airbrushing my cosmetic sponge. Hard to see, but it is getting color. Okay, now you want to stay towards the inside so that you don't get black on the edge of the fondant. And you see here I'm just touching, and those raised lines are receiving the black color. So you just want to stay within the design. So don't have the sponge hanging out towards the outside, or else you'll get black on the edge there. If you want it to stay very pristine on the outside, you have to stay on the inside. Okay, there. And there's the finished one. How great is that? And so now we can attach it to the cookie. It's good. See, this one was my practice one. I didn't waste a cookie. It's all dirty here on the edge. Now let's do this one. This is the one I was curious about. So staying on the inside to avoid getting black on the outer perimeter. Do you see how it completely changes the design by having the lines be dark? Last version. There. Love it. So the black one, this one here got a little bit of the sponging, but I don't hate it because it's like the male version, and it's like, I don't know, I find it doesn't hurt it. Here's the cookie. I want to attach my fondant decoration to the cookie. You want to make sure your hands are completely dry. If you touch the airbrushing with wet hands, you're going to reactivate the color and potentially mess it up. So I'm just going to flip the fondant over like so, and now I'm just brushing on some water on the back of the fondant to make it sticky enough. So you're activating the sugar in the fondant to adhere to the surface of your cookie. There it is. And Now it's there, and you can, I've got the paper towel to pick it up, and you can see here I'm able to just press it onto the surface of the cookie and it's attached. So you want to be mindful. This here fondant that's been painted, you can see there some of the airbrush color isn't quite dry. I just did it, so you want to be mindful of that. Here's my fondant decoration. I'm flipping it over and I'm just wetting the back so that I can make it a little sticky so that it'll adhere to my cookie. So there's the cookie, and I'm just positioning, and you can use the paper towel to flip it over, and then you can just kind of align it to the cookie. You can see here the fondant to cookie ratio. So you can't really press so much on this to get it to kind of stick, because you'll mess up the surface. My guy upside down on the paper towel, wetting it, and you could flip it on the silicone as well. I find the paper towel is better because if you do get little stains of food color like here, the airbrushing, you don't want to put another one in the same spot, so you'll constantly be washing your silicone. I've moistened this to make it sticky, activated the sugar, align myself, flip, then you can kind of press it on. And there are the 3 versions of this fondant press contraption to make your cookies. Now you could certainly cut them with a cupcake size round. You don't have to have the whole thing, and place that on your cupcake. Like here, you see this, you could cut the top and have it kind of be partially on the cupcake. You could use it to put it on the front of a cake. Imagine this on the cake, on the front of a cake. You could adhere them separately, you know, to the front of the cake. You could add a little bit of gold detail if you wanted. Very nice. Here I'm just trying to show you guys the level of detail. This is a very intricate pattern, super pretty. The quality of the embossing plates, top notch, really very nice quality. The cutters, meh, you know, medium quality 3D prints. If you want to make sure that you have them for long term, if you plan on making a lot of cookies, maybe get spares on the cutters. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. If you do shop, please use my affiliate links listed in the description box. It really helps my channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next cookie tutorial.